All right, what's that? Is that doing it? I don't know. If it says that I can't help you out, I'm really sorry about that. But that is probably the oh, there we go. Yep, this one's definitely going to do it. Yay. Yep, there we go. We got them all. Sorry about that. All right, so we're going to go ahead and start over. It's just an annoying thing about Twitch. It's actually one of my biggest gripes about Twitch is they don't let everybody participate. They just decide that certain people can't participate. So we had to restart the stream. And I'm going to repeat myself here. So today is... So there we go. Pretend like you just came in. Some people will like it because we're going to get right to business instead of like sitting around all the time like I do, right? So we're going to get right into talking about delimited data. Certain people can't participate on Twitch because they don't have systems that will do 1080p. And for some reason, Twitch has decided that unless you're worthy, you're one of the random people that I think they should give it to the science and tech for free because, I mean, come on, science and tech, we're educational. But no, so some random Fortnite person always gets partner and always gets every resolution, but Twitch doesn't give resolutions, variations, different, variations in the resolution to us. Even if I'm affiliate, I have to fight with somebody else to get it, and somebody else is unfortunate and they're not going to get it. So every time you restart your stream, so I actually start my stream in the daytime, so I get it, and because there's no people on in America anyway. And then I come back on, and then people can't see it, and people complain like, "I can't watch you. It's too high resolution." I'm like, okay, well, I could actually do my entire stream at 720 or lower, and that would just make everybody else's experience horrible. Or I can do the whole thing on YouTube, which I tried to do, which is also bad. I've seriously thought about it. That's why I left Twitch for about 3 months, by the way. I was done with this particular thing. This particular thing, I had people over the world who couldn't participate and would regularly mention it to me because Twitch. And so I don't know what you can do. Maybe you could send a suggestion in a suggestion box to Twitch or something, but they need to improve and they need to give everybody transcoding, it's called. If you don't have transcoding, then we're all going to be fighting for it. And every time in order to get it, I have to I try, if I do I can't do a peer live stream on YouTube. I can't do it. It's against Twitch rules. It's against Twitch rules if I do that. If I do that, then I can't be affiliate, and that means that I can't be promoted, and I can't have all the things that people use to like follow and sub and all that other stuff. And there's a lot of other things besides just the money involved, which is really nothing actually, particularly for this stream. So you can't. It's a dilemma, and I didn't mean to talk about this, but I'm gonna like play my little violin for you here, but because this is really annoying. It is. It's golden handcuffs. It really is. It's like, well, it's not worth our time anymore. So I'm just gonna be grateful. Twitch lets me do this for free, so I'm not gonna complain. I tend to get really upset about this stuff, but I feel like it's really lame. The amount of power and bandwidth and energy that's expended to broadcast people playing Geometry Dash. And yet when somebody's trying to teach you something that'll get you a job, I have to fight for transcoding because I'm just an affiliate and I have no hopes of ever being a partner unless I really want to sell out and turn this into an entertainment channel instead of an educational channel, which has been done. So I'm not going to do that. And that means that I will never, ever get transcoding. So it's just a hit or miss of the draw. The only alternative is to run my own streams, which I've considered doing. I've seriously thought about doing that, but then we don't get the wonderful people randomly in from Twitch who find us and who join our group. So I'm really happy for that, and I don't want to give that up. I am grateful to Twitch, but I am also super annoyed by that because it's just part of it just shows where their priorities are, and they're not on education. Let's just put it that way. Nobody's priority is education. Come on, let's get real. Who really cares about learning at the end of the day? You do. But nobody who's making money does. Can we just... I was in a good mood until this. All right, let's go back to this. All right, so let's get back to the differences between data delimited formats. Exciting, I know. Okay, so we talked about this yesterday. We're going to talk about it again. If you want to participate, tell me some examples of data that you know about that has spaces that separate it. I mean, besides a sentence, right? So this sentence here, So if I wanted to count all the words in this sentence, by the way, what command would I use to count all the words in a string in Unix? You already learned this, so a little bit of review. If I wanted to count WC, you got it. Ooh, you guys are fast. You guys are fast. That's good. So that's what you would use. And that delimits by whitespace, right? So, and I did this before and it got lost. So I'm going to ask again, what is whitespace? What are the different forms of whitespace? You can either use the escapes if you want, or you can actually spell them out however you want to do. What are the different forms? I haven't mentioned anything about this, so this isn't a quiz. This is just asking potentially people already know out there. And you can go ahead and say it again if you've already said it once, because this is a new video. So we got tab, put in the tab key, we got line feeds, we got carriage returns, and spaces. Now, right away, you're going to ask the difference between a carriage return and line feed. And so for this, I am going to bring up a wonderful visual aid. Let's see if I can find it again. Should we? Should we find it? Let's see. Teletype. You guys remember the teletype? I mean, we brought it up so many times. I like bringing up teletype stuff because it just reminds me that it all ties back to the same thing. You know, it's these are teletype machines. This is where our terminals came from. Terminal emulators. We covered that on day like 5 or something. And so, was that Nixon? Oh my God. They're all voting with the teletype machine, right? So the teletype machine had a thing. It would get to the end, and it would send a special escape, a white space that says go up one line. If anybody ever actually used a mechanical keyboard typewriter, I have one somewhere. And you get to that, and when you hit that thing to push it back, what it does is it rotates the scroll while one, and then it goes back to the front. So that's carriage return and line feed. Those are two separate things. And actually, if you ever watch the really old, printers, they print backwards. They print backwards to save time, so they don't have to return every time. They're really super slow back in the day. Yeah, it's like really old stuff. I know, but I have to bring it up. Don't type and drive. Yeah, so we have to bring this stuff up. Otherwise, you won't understand where those white space terms are. So the actual escapes for those things, you'll see we do it all the time. If you do the printf command, it takes care of the escape for automatically in a POSIX compatible way. So you can do this. You can say Rob, I don't know, was here, and that will break it all up. And sometimes you forget one on the end, right? It's one of the most annoying things about Perl, by the way, is the print statement doesn't put one on the end. So they made a new command called say that does. What happens if we put \r? Those are what? Those are line returns. Let's do an R there instead. Okay. Let's do an R. Oh my gosh. That doesn't look very happy at all, does it? Yeah. So \r doesn't do a thing. Can anybody name the operating system that used to use \r? So when you're like editing files and stuff, at the end of every line of a file on Unix, you have a line return only. Yeah, actually, Windows was carriage return line feed, and guess what Mac was? You would think that they would have agreed to this, but no. I mean, you guys will never understand this, but because you may, has anybody today opened a file that has a bunch of carriage returns at the end of each line? You would know it if you saw it. So it would be, so if we did printf, let me show you one. So carriage return, line feed, which by the way, every time you send any line over the internet, it sends a carriage return line feed at the end of everything. Every single one. It's part of the HTTP specification. It is. So this is what the internet sends, which can be annoying. It's actually required. And there's non-compliant protocols that don't send both, and that's actually the thing. Remember we talked about RFCs yesterday. So let's look at this file, shall we? So set list. No, I got rid of it. Didn't do it. It got rid of it. Carriage return line feed. I feel thwarted. I'm trying to like, let's try. This is not POSIX, by the way, what I just did. Yes, you can. I have turned on Cloud to help y'all out. So there it is. I know you can't see it's grayed out, right? There you go. So that did the right thing. Printf was smart. Did you say? I didn't know that. Today I learned something. Today I learned that printf is too smart. Printf's like, no, you really don't want that character, I promise. And it got rid of it. Echo-G is not smart enough. And it puts the control M in there. How did I see those, by the way? Set list. Actually, those you don't even have to do that. You can just see them. Another reason to use VI, I think Emacs does this as well. I probably should change my color, my terminal colors. You can't really see that. I'll tell you what. Well, I mean, you get the point, right? So you'll see control M's at the end. And these are line returns, if you see those. And you can remove them in many ways, but just so you know, that's what they are. So that covers what kind of white space there is. Now, there's one last type of white space that, I mean, tabs, you know, right? Tabs, your tabs. And the hardest part with a tab is you don't really know. Let's go put some tabs in here, right? So I'll put Rob tab and \T Murstein, doxing myself. Oh well, I've been doing it for all of eternity. So there we go. So now this here should be a tab. It doesn't look like it though, does it? Oh, it is. See that bar there? Yeah, my vimrc is set to, well, let me change that so you can see this a little bit better. I have my vimrc is set to, we're going to go through vimrc later. Don't you worry. It's called list chars. You can play with those here. See, you can change what characters are set. I can turn it off and use all the defaults again. And if I pull this back up, well, there you go. So now tab set list. Isn't there something about tabs versus spaces? Yeah, we're going to talk about that. All right, so that is the default Vim tab space. Actually, that's not what I remember it being. I'm suspicious of that. Anyway, that just know that sometimes you need to look into a file and see if it has a thing. And the command for that is set space list. Okay, set space list. So colon space set colon set underscore space list. Some people map that, whatever. And that shows you if you got tabs or not. So if I put another tab in here, you'll see it. You see that? Oh, actually, no. That's getting. See that? My tabs are being replaced because I have tab replacement on, and that gets into the conversation about tabs versus spaces, which I don't know if we should cover that right now. I think we should probably cover that during one of the coding times where it matters. So we're going to be coding in C where it doesn't matter, and we're going to be when we code in Go, it does matter specifically. Go only allows tabs. And Python allows either one, but you have to have one or the other. If you have both in the same file, it won't even run. So there is a Silicon Valley. I'll spoil it for you, but Richard, the main protagonist, loses his girlfriend, who's phenomenal. It's really sad because he can't get over the fact that she uses spaces versus tabs for indentation when they write code and stuff. Yeah, and it's a pretty fun scene. You should go watch it. So if you don't get anything else from this tonight, then you need to go watch that scene. I actually played it several times. I should probably play it, but that's too much time. Yeah, when we get to Python and Go and C and the different languages, we're going to start understanding, particularly Go. But Go and Python, indentation really, really matters. And yeah, the smart fridge. I just can't. I cannot riff off it right now. I will be totally lost. I'll never come back. I love that show. So anyway, I aspire to be a Guilfoyle. Yeah, I am. I'm a Guilfoyle. I'm not a Dinesh. I thought Go doesn't matter that much. It doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't. Amen. Amen, brother. Thank you for assuaging our concerns about Go. Go demands tabs, but no one cares because no one uses tabs anyway, because they all use GoFMT when they save, and so it fixes the whole problem. It's absolutely the best of both worlds. It demands tabs, but nobody uses tabs because the FMT linters take care of it all, and they don't have to fight. Okay, and that's the way you should do it. That's the way you should do it. So if anybody wants to fight you over spaces versus tabs, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter, dude. Truth is, I think that's the best way to do it, because then you can type your spaces, but the end result is more efficient for the compiler. And of course, Go is obsessed with compile time. It is obsessed. It is the most obsessed language with compile time I have ever experienced. I would say ever conceived, frankly. Oh god, for sure. Yeah, you can't cover Go without covering Go FMT. No, especially since we're going to be doing it all in VI. Okay, so that's coming. It's a ways away, but we got to go through VimRC and all that stuff. We got stuff to do. My Pomo is so sad. Pomo, go to sleep. I should say Pomo sleep or something. Is that a thing? All right, so that's been kind of a whirlwind tour of white space. I'm trying to find another one for you. Oh no, there's my fishies and stuff. So yeah, I'm trying to think here. What did? Let's see. Did we put it in here? Yeah. All right. So there we go. We have we have tab there. Whatever. That's white space. There is one last definition of white space that I have to talk about, and that is any control character that you remember the ANSI set of control characters. Let's go look it up. So go do your own internet search and search for ANSI. We already did ANSI for color the other day. We had a blast, right? So let's do ANSI escapes. So this is a good time to cover this. ANSI escape codes. There's lots of stuff out here about this. Oh, this is interesting. What's this? Somebody made a gist for us. Let's go look at that. So control key, octal, escape sequences. Let me see if I can zoom this in for you. It would probably look pretty well without being graphic-y, but we'll do the graphic one on this. So here you go. The control key. So this is what it actually would look like inside of, if you open it with VI, another reason to use VI versus Nano or something, it will actually show you the control character. This is, I mean, I don't know if I already told you this, but you can actually open anything. This is the LS binary code, and it has every byte that it can try to figure out how to show you. I could actually edit the binary right now if I wanted to. I don't, but I could. That's Vimdiff is actually one of the things the NeoVim project saw fit to take out of the project, which I think is stupid, but oh well. And that would allow you to see the difference between the changes and everything. You can't do it. So we got Bell Control A. If you really want to torment people, most people have this turned off. You can actually send these things just like we did a tab and a backslash. You can actually send these other ones, and they'll go through. There's horizontal tab. There's vertical tab. These are very rarely used, but they are supported by this character escapes. We're going to talk about binary and octal and bases and all that stuff when we start getting into C. We're not going to do anything with bases and octal and hex until we do C, and it's going to make so much sense because C operates at that level, and it's the best place for us to start talking about binary things. So don't worry about that right now. Bell taking out the kernel, that would be great if it was. I hope it was. Yeah, man. If you have any, any links to that, then let me know about that. Okay, yeah, use Git for version control. Maluba, agreed. So, but the only reason I'm talking about this, so new page, form feeds, occasionally you will see some of this other stuff, and it will be considered white space. In fact, as crazy as it sounds, you can remember these escape sequences we've been doing. We did those for color, right? You can have a color escape sequence and have it be technically white space. All right. It just depends on what language you're dealing with and what, how white space has been defined. But I did want to tell you, so for example, when we haven't gotten to regular expressions yet, we will. Perl white space regular expression. So it has a very specific idea about what it thinks is white space. So I'm just giving you one example of a language that's got specific opinions about this. They all do. And they're largely the same, but you don't want to be surprised by saying, oh, I'm going to parse on all the white space and then leave something out. And then, that's why I have to talk about it, because people do have different ideas about what white space is. So \s is a pluralism that, which has been adopted by everything now, which matches white space. That is space, tab, new line, carriage return, and form feed. So all of you who left out form feed, if you were talking to a Perl coder, they'd be like, no, you missed one. And if you're talking to yet another type of coder or something, you'll miss all of these other ones, so these also are considered white space by some. That's all. And now you know. So you say, well, what do you mean by white space? Traditionally, though, white space is just tab, carriage return, new line, or a space. A space tab. I think it's funny because they left out space here. I wonder if they meant to do that. They left out the most important one. They have tab. Look, they have tab, new line, carriage return, and form feed, but they left space out of the range. So this is actually bad pro code. That would not match. That would not match. It would miss all your spaces. Oh, I know. All right. So I don't know. Maybe it's a links thing. I doubt it. So we spent enough time on white space, but it's those little things like that that are going to get you. And so it's kind of the purpose of the boost is to cover the things that are going to get you, not so much the stuff you can learn through the mainstream, studying and reading and stuff. And yeah, so common applications for delimited data. Let's try this. When would you want to use spaces to separate something, or tabs, or bars, or paths, or even CSV? And you guys can just shoot stuff out. Who among you has actually dealt with data in this form before? And what kind of data was it? And what application were you using that involved it? And I mean, I imagine you guys have a lot of opinions on this. I don't know if you want to type them or not. Otherwise, I'll start throwing stuff out. I'll give you a little bit of a delay because I know there's a little bit of lag. Logs. All right. Logs. When we create tables, logs. Just today, I kid you not, 152,000 log entries for orphan pods in our Kubernetes cluster. And I was parsing logs like crazy based on white space. So logs is a good one. Where as an admin or an SRE or as an infrastructure engineer, you're going to be dealing with logs and white space constantly. Creating tables. That's actually probably the best, most awesomest example. Because databases are already tabled. They're already called, and so when you, hey Philo, so when you export them, when you dump a database, almost always it has tab delimited in it, or a comma delimited, or it's space delimited, or whatever. You're almost always going to be dealing with table data that has, the column and rows kind of idea, right? So that's another. Database is probably the biggest one. So logs, databases are the two biggest. There's actually another one that's equally as big though. How about this guy? I mean, this is one people don't consider delimited, but it totally is. And here's another one. We talked about this yesterday, but let's talk about it again. Where is the most likely place you're going to encounter CSV? And a good chance if you're a developer and you're working with a finance group or somebody doing data science that is not using Python or something, you're going to run into spreadsheets. Yeah. So thanks, Neon. So we talked about logs, databases, and spreadsheets are among, if not the most, that's where you're going to find delimited data. And we talked about the problems with CSV. We're going to get to that a little bit later. I think we should probably do this right here. It's a long one. So problems with CSV. Yeah, beware of problems with CSV. All right, so that's all I wanted to say. That those are the main places you're going to run into this stuff. So, however, there are other places where you'll run into delimited data that are not as obvious. So, like the Etsy pass, we talked about this yesterday. But like if you do getInt, you can go look up your username from the Etsy password file. I spelled that wrong. Did I spell it wrong? Wait, why am I not doing that right? That's not typed right. It's getInt, right? Yeah, getInt. Oh, I forgot to type the file. All right, so there you go. So there's an entry from Etsy password. I can do group, and it'll give you my entry from that. So getInt will look up the entries in the main system files that are delimited with commas. So that's a less common place, but it's still an important place to look up delimited data. And we're we're now it's about time to start chopping this stuff up, right? And doing what we're going to do with that. So let's do that. Let's say, I don't know. I think I'm going to save IFS to the very end. If we don't get to it, we don't get to it. So let's think of the many different ways of parsing this up. So let's try to keep it real here. Let's say I wanted, now there's many other commands to do this. You would never do this, but if you did, I mean, I don't know, let's start with one that you might not have thought of, paths. And this might not be as important, but every time that you look at a path, what is a path, by the way? What is a path? Anybody have a good definition for a path? I'm not talking about, okay, let me give you a whole bunch of paths right there. There it is. All right, I actually just wrote a Zettelkasten on this week, 2 days ago, about how to manage your path properly. That's actually pretty cool. So if I want to make user bin on the top here, I have this thing. It's called path prepend. I can move path. I can move S bin to the top, and now S bin is at the very top. Yeah, pretty cool, huh? So it's where it looks for executables. So, and this file is right here. And I'm glad you mentioned that, Chaos, because there's the word path to technologists, particularly terminal people, Linux people, means two things. It means either the collection of paths to look in for a binary to run. In other words, well, we decided command.a was the way to do this, right? And that because which is not POSIX. I use which all the time. It's much smarter, faster to type. Oh, now I got to use that one then. So let's do this. Let's do which ls. There we go. Absolute relative path. So when you hear the word path, it has two meanings. So I'm going to actually put that in some other place here. I'll put it in my notes here. Let's see. So know what path and path. Know the difference between path and paths. Okay. It's easy to confuse them. Between path and file path. All right. So a file path. So a path here, and here's what's really weird is that we actually have two cases for it. So the path is a really good opportunity to look at a delimited thing, right? So if we look at this, when I have this program, and I'm just going to show it to you really fast, but this is nice and pretty, right? It's a bunch of paths. So a path would be a separated value. It is, right? A path is a slash separated value, and you can parse that. But the path, the uppercase path is also a delimited string with colons in it. And in fact, that little thing that I'm doing there, I know it looks pretty fancy, but that's all it is. And this, we talked about this the other day with parameter expansion. We're going to come back to parameter expansion a little later. This says replace all commas with, now you know what they are, a line return. And it has to escape the backslash because otherwise it would not be considered a thing. And so it says replace all the colons with line returns, which makes it nice and easy to read. Pretty nice little thing there to look up. And so that's, one way of delimiting a path like that. Well, let's take one of these paths. So, I don't know, let's do golang go bin or something. So what happens if I want to get this one, I just echo that. But if I want to get that and I want to just get the file at the end, how about this? Let's do which go. All right, now let's do this. The which, it's another more valuable one. Fishies. Where's the fishies? Okay, I don't want all of that. So let's say I move my fishies around, right? And I just want to get the thing at the end. And this came up this week actually, on a project I was doing. And somebody did it like this. There's a program called base name fishies. What does that do? Now, it looks really nice and awesome and everything, but until you look at what it is, left over from the POSIX days. I don't understand. I don't understand why this thing exists. I don't. I have been really struggling to understand why this command exists. This is a 39K, which isn't too big, program that does nothing except truncate all of this off. And I talked about this yesterday, but I'm going to talk about it again because it's one of my biggest pet peeves because people don't know about it. Parameter expansion, I'm kind of getting ahead. I jumble everything up all the time. But so the other way to do this is this. You could say, so we get our fishies here. There's our which fishies, right? Let's put that into a variable. So let's say CMD or path. How about that? Did I just blow your mind? I don't know. You can say full path, file path. How about that? File. How about that? File equals, and then we're going to do which fishies. By the way, colon and parentheses is the same as backtick. Just depends on what you want to type at the time. Don't put backticks in your shellcode, though. It's a bad practice to do that, unless it's Perl. You have to do that. Actually, that's not sure you can use QX. But all right, so we do file. So if I echo the file, right? I'm going to not mess around it. I'm just doing this quickly. So I got this big long thing, right? So using parameter expansion, echo, you got it. Good job. Good job, Chaos. So now you can just do this. You can do that, and that'll say go all the way to the end. I think you're missing one thing though. I think you're missing that. Actually, I just got that. Oh boy. I think I did it wrong. I think I told you to Chaos. I'm dyslexic too, so we'll be dyslexic together. It's actually this one, right? Yeah. There you go. So good try though. I constantly mix that up. I actually mixed that up in a script yesterday, and I had caught myself. So the hashtags chop off from the front, and the percents chop off from the back. And if you want to read about that, search for parameter expansion in either the bash man page or the dash man page. It's probably the most likely thing that you're going to find. Man sh will do the same thing for you too, even if you've unminified your container or using my workspace container or whatever. So there you go. It's exactly the same thing, and there was no subshell. But the point is, I mean, I mix them up all the time too. I constantly interchange them. I swear I interchanged them like 3 times this week. So, and that's probably why people don't use them, because I mean, base name, obviously another way to do this is what? How could you do this with the, you do base name, what? $fishies. Oh boy. Wait, did I call it? What did I call whole file? Never mind. Base name file. Right? That's another way to do it. I saw it in code today, 2 days ago. I saw this in code. You realize that that's not. First of all, too, here's another thing, guys. I literally corrected that in somebody's code yesterday. Today, actually. That's exactly what they had. And I was like, okay. And this was Bash, too. Anybody else know a simpler way to do that in Bash? So we haven't talked about it yet, but all those environment variables, someday, for just random grins, run env, pipe it to more, and then look at all the stuff that's here already. I don't think I have any tokens in here. That would be horrible. But this is all the stuff you get for free. And some of them are, and if you want to know the ones you get for free with Bash, you can go look at the environment. You can go search for the environment here in man bash. You can see all the stuff that's set for free. Well, what's one of the ones that's set for free in Bash? Anybody know about PWD? There's a friend. That is not POSIX. That is not POSIX. But if you are operating from the command line, then you can do this, right? What is it? Somebody want to guess? Yeah, there you go. You got it. So if you're operating from the command line, you did that. You got it all for free. In fact, that variable was even already defined for you. You didn't even have to sneak it in there or anything. So that's the most efficient way to do that. That is not going to be the first answer from Stack Exchange you're going to get, but God help us all. Stack Exchange got bought up. You heard about that, right? Like 2 days ago or day yesterday? Yeah, it isn't. I wish it was. I tested it today, actually. Yeah, I was super bummed. I did. I tested it today. I was like, wow, I wish it's not there. You're going to have to go read about that. I can't talk about it. Yeah, Proteus. Yep. Yeah, 1.3 billion. Right. It's gone. Stack Overflow's gone. All the content is Creative Commons, though. You guys know this, right? Somebody was saying that it's not a big deal. All the content is Creative Commons. Yes, they are. Chaos. Yes. In fact, the reason that I suggest you learn, look, so we're kind of jumping ahead to parameter expansion because it's super cool. It's probably the coolest thing in Shell to do, I think. And the parameter expansion stuff, make sure you read the shell and dash parameter expansion stuff and learn that first. I cannot emphasize this more. Because why? Because when you learn it, see all the special variables and stuff, then you'll know that that's POSIX, and then you'll learn bashisms after that. Bash has got tons. I talked about them yesterday. Bash has got tons and tons and tons of extra awesome parameter expansion that'll mystify all your friends. But if you know what's POSIX and what's not, I am not going to lie. It was about 3 months ago when I was going back to POSIX after Bash, and I had fallen in love with all the parameter expansions, that I realized for the first time in 25 years of like doing this tech that POSIX actually had parameter expansion. Until that moment, I thought it was non-POSIX. And I even ran it with shell check, and it goes, yeah, it's POSIX. I was like, why have I not been doing this my whole life? I've been using base name and sed and awk and all this other crap. Relation between POSIX and Bash. We covered that on a different day, Sis. That's a great question. POSIX has been around a lot longer. I don't remember the time. Let me see if I can find the day for you. I'm trying hard to remember where I put that. If you go back to if you're reading the thing here, if we do, there we go. So on day 13, we covered it. POSIX shell is a universal command interpreter. What is the difference between them all? So the whole video on day 13, I think you'll really, really like if you want to know about POSIX. There was another one earlier that we talked about. There we go. Learn POSIX parameter expansion. I don't know how many times I've covered that. I seem to be repeating myself, but that's fine. I mean, if I am, that's fine. You'll just learn it better. So POSIX is the international standard. And actually I have a link to it right here. There's actually a link to the standard right there if you want it, which normally you have to pay gobs and gobs of money to get. Know what POSIX means. There you go. Day 14, 13, and 14 are the 2 days, apparently. So we are on day 21. Right? I think we are. Yeah, there we go. So we got our white space down. We got we kind of jumped ahead and did this parameter expansion stuff. No, we're on task. Good. Get the prefix and the suffix. We talked about that. Is this marked out? Yes, that's why it's all ones and not 1, 2, 3. Yeah, scissor pin. Welcome to the stream. Yeah, come on by. And this stuff kind of builds on itself. In case you're wondering, that's why we're covering it like that. Know the difference between path and file path. We just talked about that at length ad nauseum, so I'm going to put that down here. Use cut. Okay, so I'm going to tell you right now, I do not know how to use cut. So I'm going to learn it with you. I see people using cut all the time, and I'm like, why? 9 times out of 10, if you know how to chop the prefix and the suffix off, why do you need cut? Do you know what I mean? If you know how to chop the prefix and the suffix off, and you can do that, oh no, I used 2 lines instead of 1 subshell. I didn't use any subshells, and I used 2 whole lines of my script. What would you rather do? I say use parameter expansion, but there's people who swear by cut, and there's other people who swear by awk, and I can't wait to slam on awk a little bit. I'm gonna tell you right now. I'm gonna warn you. I'm gonna slam on awk. Because I've been around the block long enough to see how awk actually gets used, and it's kind of funny. So use cut if you like. So if you use, and if you know how, I'm going to actually, that's what I need to and if you know how, because I don't. Someone teach me how to use cut. Slam away. Yeah. So seriously, someone teach me how to use cut. So let's do this. Let's do echo name space, I don't know, name space age, name rank and serial number or something. I don't know. And oh, look at you go. Look at you pros. Thank you for this. So my delimiter is space, but that's the default. Yeah. And I want field. Now this is what always blows me away. It's not 0, right? It starts with 1. See, it failed me. You know what? That's what it failed me every time. You can't leave the -d off. Now I remember. I remember. That's what annoyed me. I would always leave off that dash D, and I'm like, why can I not default to white space? I mean, seriously, why can they not default to that? They're going to make me type all of that? All right, well, now I know. I learned cut. Yay. So, to be fair, cut is the most effective way to get it stuff in the middle. Yeah, I was going to say. Yeah. Oh, look at that. 0, 1. Uh-oh. There we go. Yeah. And I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. I should stop hating on cut. To tell you the truth, I'm not really hating on it. I just don't use it. I'll tell you what though, I'm gonna love it if it means I don't ever have to use awk again in POSIX, because I hate awk. I used to use cut if you use strings as a raised in POSIX shell. Yes, I think that's totally okay. And frankly, Furzik, I think you're ahead of me on that. So when I use POSIX shell, we haven't gotten into arrays yet. In fact, the hard part about this is that, the problem, okay, so we haven't talked about regexes yet, right? Regexes are a bash only thing. If you're going to try to use regex, you'd have to use the deprecated expr, which you should never use. My way of thinking is that I can get that field by counting how many spaces, but in that case, I don't. So use cut. I'm gonna stop hating on cut. I'm not really even hating. I said I'm not hating on it. I just don't use it. Quite frankly, I use awk. I'm going to show you what I do for that, which is stupid. And everybody else does it too. So I'm putting myself in that mix. So use cut to get, how about that? To get at stuff in the middle. That's my very formal description of what you should use cut for. I mean... Anyway, so where are we? Are we here? Okay, so to get stuff in the middle, yeah. Malcolm would be proud. So here we go. So let's do it. I would do name some other random thing. I don't know. What should we do? So echo. And by the way, if you're gonna use setawk, cut, and tr and all that stuff, the most forgivable place to use those things is on the command line. Because it's just going to live for 2 seconds. You don't care. It keeps you on the same line instead of having to write a file. I mean, all those parameter expansions are really awesome and everything, but they're a pain in the butt to type from the command line. And so you'll catch me doing stuff like that too. You know, I like with awk, and I'm gonna show you the exact same actually. Name, rank, and serial number. I don't know why I picked that. I just did. So we're gonna pipe that to. Cut just to cut dash D with spaces. Now, what happens if I put a dash there? I'm gonna mess you up here. And I want field 1. Ooh, you see what it just did there? See what that did there? Right. So we could say field 1. I could do field 2, and it's splitting on dash, right? Now, here's something I don't like. So it does have to be a lot. I think it will gobble up all of them, right? Spaghetti-O. This is why I don't like cut. I think I remembered why I don't like it. Yeah, I remembered. This is why I don't like it. What's the switch? Somebody save me. I'm pretty sure this is why I hate it. And this Pearl saves the day on this, to tell you the truth. This means it isn't greedy. Holy cow. Why would I ever use it then? You can never be sure of the number of spaces between a thing. No, just no. And that's probably why awk is still king on this guy. Oh, I learned something today. This is great. I mean, this has been, I use Perl and parameter expansion for most of this stuff. Or I use a sed match or something like that. Or, you know, God help, I mean, most of the Perl stuff. So I don't have a big need to do this, but this is good because I'm trying to get back into my POSIX. So that's actually worked really, really well. And I take back everything I said about cut. But careful, not greedy. How about that? Does that sound fair? So this is usually the number one way you will see awk used in the world. Like Stack Exchange, everything is full of awk like this. By the way, use single quotes. Your day will go much better if you use single quotes on this. And you just do print $1, and that'll print name. And then you do print $2, and that will print rank. And you do print $3. Raise your hand if you've used, that was the first and only way that you've ever used awk. Come on, don't be shy. I have actually used the begin clause, like I think maybe once in my life, which Perl also has. And so the thing that's crazy about this is if you listen to Thompson talk about awk, he thinks it's God gift to the world. There's actually a really good video on this. Do you know about this video? If you want to really get the full lowdown on awk, and he'll tell you why the world should use it and nothing else. The reason that awk failed miserably is because there were so many different versions of awk and they all did something slightly differently. And it was actually the #1 inspiration for Larry Wall to make Perl. He was like, it's like that XKCD thing where like, hey, there's 10 standards, and then we had to make a new standard so that all these other standards could go away, and now there's 12 standards. You know, there's a famous XKCD on that if somebody wants to find the link. And that's what Perl did. Only Perl worked, it did it. It like unified PCRE, which is now the standard for regular expressions, and everything else in basic BRE can, sed and stuff can go jump in the lake. But I know you guys don't know the pain of this, but awk there were many times when awk was just a problem. I do want to find the video for you though, so you can go watch that on your own time. That is not the video. That is definitely not the video. Did you find the XKZ? There it is. It's a famous one. There it is. Unix awk and Go programming. What? This is new. I am not aware of this one. Is this the same one? Oh no, this is no. He's like interviewing him. He's got my mic too. Yeah, sure. Oh, is it Kernighan? It is Kernighan. I mixed Kernighan and Thompson up all the time. What am I talking about? So, successful language design. This is him talking about awk, and he'll just go off and on and on and on and on about awk. He's really funny. I like him a lot. I mean, he's a nice guy. I don't know him, but anyway, he'll tell you all about. He'll also tell you where the word grep got its name. Yeah, if you really want to know, you can know that little piece of trivia. I'm not going to tell you. You're going to go research that on your own. Anyway, so awk got famous at splitting things. Bottom line, that's it. And now, honestly, I just learned with you the main reason that awk is preferred over cut, because it can handle these different things. In 20 years of programming on the shell, I have never known that. I have never distinguished that difference, mostly because I don't use cut. I've used awk for this and Perl. And so, yeah, I mean, I use Perl for everything, but you don't always have that. So let me give you an example where you might not need to learn awk, and that goes for me. And I've been really woken up to this reality recently. So these little really lightweight containers, I don't know why you would, but if you're writing install scripts for your containers and your Docker file and stuff like that, right? Your Docker file, I'm jumping ahead, assuming you know about containers a little bit, but if you do, and you're writing a BusyBox container Docker file, there's a good chance you're going to be writing shellcode in there, and there's a good chance you're going to be writing POSIX shell, which means that you're not going to have Perl. There's no Perl over here. And you're not going to have, you're going to have sed, right? You're going to have one specific type of sed, and you're going to have one specific type of awk. So that method of splitting things that I just showed you works. It just works. So I you can multiply if you have tr. Yeah, but that will gobble up tr. We haven't covered TR at all. TR is a translator. It doesn't really go in the delimited thing, but actually let's do TR. Let's show you. So you know what? Thank you for bringing that up, Chaos. That's a good thing. Let's use TR to change the delimiter. How about that? So use TR to, how about transform to change the delimiter. So let's say you don't like the way it is. Yeah, if for no other reason, this is a good way for you to learn TR. And you do need TR for lots of, TR is a good way to do encryption, like simple encryption, like with ROT13 and stuff. In fact, that's one of our challenges to write, actually, PicoCTF has that, and over the wire. So anyway, so let's do TR. Let's say Let's do this. Let's say we did, I don't know, let's do getInt RWX from the password file. You want to use getInt instead of grep because you might be working with NAS if you're in Kubernetes world or something like that. You'll have, or NIS or some form of LDAP or something like that, that's going to get the entry for you, even though it's not on the current system. So you want to start, yeah, that's something I recently was reminded of. I did it in the 90s a lot because we were all NIS, network information server kind of thing. And then lately I've been working in a large scale environment with, thousands and thousands of users, and they're all using some form of LDAP that's getting translated. So you definitely want to use getInt for the password entries. Kind of a side note there. But so yeah, you password in RDBX Rob, and that's going to get my entry. Well, let's say I wanted to translate, though I don't like those things. I want to turn them into commas, or I shouldn't do commas, but let's say I just wanted to get spaces out there so then I could use it in other ways, right? So you could do that. You could do TR. You could say I want to replace. Let's wait. So we want to say S is the source, right? Isn't that right? Did I get that right? And then I think, is it 2 for the other one? I don't remember. I don't use it very much. I usually just parameter expansion my way into it if it's in a script. I think I got this wrong. Is it squeeze? No. What is it? Somebody give me. You teach me. I don't know. I think it's. I don't have it on the tip of my tongue because I almost never use it. No, I didn't do it right. Oh, when in doubt, go study it. C complement. I mean, unlike other professors, I'll tell you, I don't know because I don't know. What is it? Removes multiple characters. Yeah, I know. They're using TR in that case for squeeze. Oh, S is for squeeze? Is that what that is? Oh, okay. Okay, so let's do that. So change the delimiter to change the delimiter or squeeze. I learned something today. You guys are teaching us here. Spaces. I like that a lot. I didn't know. I did not know. That's the basic one, right? Yeah. All right. I was overthinking it. I'm sorry. So TR, all it does is it takes this character, and every time that character occurs, it replaces it with this character. So in this case, I want the colons to be replaced with spaces. And that's all. So let's see if that works. Yeah, see that? Now the thing of it is that I can do other stuff with that. I could send this to a for loop. Now this gets into the IFS again. So if I do that, you guys remember the for loop uses spaces, right? So if I wanted to, I could do for F as in field, right? In, and then I could do get int, all that jazz. Do echo F, done. And now I get all of them on their own lines. And if I wanted to, I could pipe all of that into ln. Is it ln or L? Is it NL? Yeah, there we go. So, I mean, you can do all kinds of things there. Or you could pipe it into, or you could change for to, on bash, you could change for to select. Yeah, check this out. Select. That's like, it's going to pick one, right? And it'll just print it out by default. It's like, so you can do that. So as you see, because it's white space, right? So there are times when you want to turn something into nice, happy white space like we just did there. And that's a good way to use TR. So hopefully, yeah, I'm dyslexic on that. Thanks, Chaos. So what else we got? Now, another way to do this would be to not do that at all. And while we're here, we might as well do this. I'm kind of all over the place, but let's do this. So you could do, see, this is actually not going to work, right? It just gives you the one line. Why? Because for loops normally split on space. And by the way, let me show you something that's a really common mistake. What happens if I put quotes around this? Most of the time you want to quote stuff out. Almost always, right? It's safe to quote stuff out. But in a for loop, you almost always don't want to quote that out. Because if you quote that, it won't do the white space expansion, and it's totally safe to do that in that spot. Yeah. So in that particular case, that would be wrong to quote this. So it's like the only really good exception to not quoting your variables that I can think of is yeah, you got burned by it a lot, right? Most people do. So and again, we're here to help you avoid the things that might not be obvious from the books and stuff. So just know that that's the thing, okay? And we're not going to cover everything here, but maybe we can cover enough to keep you from getting burned like us. Okay, so let's go back to here. Let's do this one. So I still have a problem there. Now there is shell check would tell you to quote that. Does it? Yeah, actually, Juan got burned by that. Yeah, Juan got burned by that today or yesterday. He was talking about that in the open chat during the day, the co-working. In case you're wondering, I got to make a plug if you're on YouTube. I stream all day, every day. Chill out music, copyright free, chill out music and fishies. Here's the fishies. Where is my fishies? Where are the fishies? Oh my God, the fishies are gone. So yeah, if you want to join us, I'm going to put that in there. Just a little plug. If you want to come join us and whatever, best fishies in the biz. It's yeah. And we're putting Cal Stay back in there too. We got to make him say something more intelligent. You guys, we need to make a stream quotes database so you guys could submit your quotes and I can, okay, yes. I'm going to make that. I'm going to make that happen so you can do it through the chat. My first non-lame use of quote of exclamation point will probably be submit your quote. But you'll have to say, quote me, and we'll put it in there and then I'll just kind of approve them or something. Anyway, so another thing you can do, so the input field separator, IFS, which you in POSIX, I don't think I can slow it down. I probably should slow it down. I know. Were you the one complaining? Yeah, I heard you complaining. I know I did. So the problem with changing IFS is that when you do, you have to change it back if you're doing it in a script, right? So there you go. Why did that work? Why did that work? This isn't supposed to work. It's supposed to be white space. Why did it all of a sudden work? Because I changed the input field separator. Find some mnemonic. Now here's what you're actually supposed to do if you're going to do that. I'm already screwed because I already set mine. I'm going to unset IFS. Is that going to work? Let's try. Yep, it does. All right. So technically you should do this. You should say old. Yes, it does. Good job. Yeah. So old IFS. Let's see, old IFS equals or whatever, right? IFS. And then you should say, and then you can do IFS equals colon on its own line. If you don't do that, shell check will yell at you. Some people put that in the same line in Bash, which you can do with while loops and stuff, but bad idea. You should put it on a separate line. Because you don't know whether it's going to be in the same subshell or not. So some people will put that. This is another thing people do is they'll group it. I wonder if I can pull that off. Anyway, let's try it. Let's try one more thing. I actually just read about this today. This is good for me too because it's causing me to read up on stuff before I talk to you about it. I just read today. I was studying parentheses subshells, and I believe so. Let's unset IFS. I believe so. The reason, so this is off the rails here, but trying to decide where this would go. Actually, no, I added it someplace back in the previous boost days. Parentheses. So parentheses cause a subshell to happen. Remember we were talking about processes and stuff? Well, there's a process number, right? And I thought, well, surely if I put that same thing in parentheses, it'll be a separate process. No, it's not. It is a separate subshell, and that subshell has its own environment, but it uses the same process ID, which really confused me. So I was like reading about it. So I actually want to test something. I think, I don't know, that this might work. So if I do this, it's still busted, right? I think I might be able to do this. Because the whole thing I was telling you about old IFS and all that stuff, that's just so you can reset IFS back to what it was after you did something else, right? and you kind of just trusting everybody to be good citizens with IFS, so they make sure that they leave it in a state that it was found. No, I don't think they do. They do. I think there's a minimal performance hit, but I don't know to what extent. I can't speak to that. I wish I knew. But if you do it, but I do know this though. So I mean, again, every single line is a subshell. So that's important that you know that too. So, and so if we put it, so we would do this, we could say IFS equals colon and then a semicolon, which means line return, right? And I'm just wondering. Now, let's try it without that, shall we? Oh, I learned something today. Okay, that's good. I'm going to start doing that forever now. So what I just learned is that, yes, it is a subshell, but the reason I was reading about IFS, and there was a clause in there that said all environment variable settings within the subshell are only in the subshell. And I was like, oh my God, you can set scope on variables in shell using parentheses. And I know there's a 10 dozen of you that are out there like, well, no, you could always do that. And I don't think I ever fully understood that it's not just for grouping, it's also a scope limiter. And that means that variables only live within that space, which is a big deal for shell. Because why? POSIX shell, what is the scope of all variables in shell? POSIX shell. They're all globals. So if you want to be sure that something doesn't stomp on something else, at like IFS, everybody's using IFS. It's like one of the ones that if somebody's not a very good citizen and they change the IFS up above, it'll break your whole script, right? Because you're going to go down and do a for loop. Somebody up above, anywhere up above, changed IFS, and now you're screwed, right? So if you want to be a good citizen about it and you don't mind whatever hit, we don't know, that you would take by putting in parentheses, you can pull it off without changing it. And I think that's phenomenal. So I just learned it today. Just because I was going through this. All right, so enough of that. We've been playing around with our white space a lot. If you want to learn more about awk, go for it. Really, the only other thing to do with awk would be counting. Awk is really good. Like if you want to count the number of lines, or if you wanted to do some sort of transformation to each line. I swear by Perl for that. But you're going to see me, unfortunately, writing a lot more awk doing that now that I'm a container cloud native guy, because the baseline containers do not have Perl, my beloved Perl. And so my awk skills are going to have to improve because BusyBox just has awk. And BusyBox is hands down the standard for that kind of stuff. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. That my Docker files are going to start, there's going to be some awk in there and some cut and possibly some more sed. Now, sed is not under delimited data because technically sed is transforming data, kind of like TR, and it doesn't really have application in the sense of so yeah. I guess you could put here, we could say let's do this. Let's say use TR or sed to change the limiter or squeeze. So or Perl, but I hate that I can't put Perl on everything, but I can't in good conscience. You guys know I love Perl. But I cannot, in good conscience, encourage people to learn Perl for Dockerfile containerish kind of things, and that's what we're going to do right after this. Right after this, we're going to make Docker files for your containers and for your own workspace containers and stuff. And I don't want you putting stuff in there that one day you might be like, oh, I can't use this in this Alpine container, or this BusyBox is not letting me use Perl, or I don't have Bash. Oh no, this is why I'm doing POSIX first, because they all have POSIX support, and that matters. That matters when you're writing a Docker file. Okay, so understand the problem with CSV. With 15 minutes left, we did understand input field separator. I think we did a good job with that one. I'm gonna put maybe use like that. And now you guys will know what we're talking about. Understand the problems with CSV and Barrera problems with CSV. So this is going to take about 10 minutes, and that's going to be about the end of it for tonight. And I'd like these 90-minute sessions. I know we chewed up a lot from the beginning of this one, but the last two items redundant. Yes, they are. They're very redundant. All right, so what do we have here? Let's do understand the problems with CSV, not the source manager. And we did this yesterday, but I'm going to do it again. Let's actually make a quick CSV. So let's use the same name rank auxiliary number. If I was doing this as a, so let's pretend like this line got exported out of, these are the headers, I guess, right? So if they got exported, so initially you think that CSV, which comma separated values, right? You think that that would be fine. And you're like, hey, I'm good to go. I just have to change my delimiter. We'll just use the cut we already have to this and we're good to go, right? Wrong. So here's why. So if I have, first of all, what if I had, let's do something more useful, actually. So we could say, you know, like, let's say maybe the first one is my name, and we did age, and let's say my favorite quote, you know, don't, it's going to be, that's hard. So, it's already hard. I like that you're feeling my pain. Because the point here is that it's problematic, right? So so this is actually what the line would look like. I might have to read it from a file. So what are you doing? All right. Don't get mad, get busy. That's my quote. I've never heard anybody else say it. TMRN. Now you can use it. I suck at it. That's why it's my don't get mad, get busy. Yes. And that, you know what? I'm gonna make swag that's got that on there. DGMGB. I've got to do that. Thank you, Chaos, for inspiring that. I am gonna make that happen. Why did they do that, by the way? Why did they just do that? Yeah, I got double quotes in here, right? So I'm missing a bunch of stuff here. I'm doing it on purpose. So it's like, what? You're not done here. No, the reason is because I have to escape this guy, and I want you to see all of this. Right? And it got 53, which is the second field. That's all nice and well and good, right? Now, but what if, let's say we weren't as strong in our saying here. Let the quotes escape. Yes. They need to escape. So it still gets it, right? But now watch. Now let's go get field. Let's say I want all of the quote here, right? So that should be item 3. So let's go get field 3. That's behind me. I'm sorry. Let me do it again. There we go. So don't get mad, right? Why? And you know why. And so the theme right now is CSV sucks. Because it can have too many things in it. So the rules for parsing it aren't, is the next letter a quote? Is the next letter a quote? Is the next character a comma? Is the next character a comma? That's not what it's asking. It's asking a lot more questions, and those are all tokenization rules that are very complex. They're very complex. They're not what you think. So what it's saying, it's a whole state engine, and you can actually pretend like you're a compiler or a tokenizer or a parser, whichever piece of this you want to call it. You can pretend you are by asking the question, okay, what is my state? Okay, I'm in a word. In a word. Oh, I have a comma. I'm at the end of the previous word. Okay. And now I'm at the beginning. I'm getting ready to start a new word. I'm in a word. Oh, I'm at the end of a previous word and I'm getting ready to start another word, or field, and I'm in a field. Oh, I have a quote. Oh, okay. I'm in a quoted field, which is a special field, which means, okay, I'm in a field. Oh, I have a comma, but my state is in a quoted field. So I'm going to ignore you. Okay. Now I'm going to go to in a field. I get on the end. I go, oh, it's the end of a quote. Am I in a quoted field? Yes, I'm in a quoted field. Okay. Back to the thing. What's next? Oh, it's the end. I'm done. That's what the compiler and parser is doing. It's changing the state as it's going along every single time. It's very complicated. It gets worse. What happens if I if I wanted to do this, don't get mad, get busy. Well, the official, not everybody follows this, unfortunately, but the official, we'll answer that in a bit. So the official thing here is to double quote the quotes. Now, just think of the algorithm now. It's like, okay, I'm in a quoted field. Oh, I have a quote. I have a quote. I'm in a quoted field. Is it over? I don't know. Let me look ahead one character, which is pretty much the most you can do in context-free grammars from the old days. You can do the look ahead all sorts of goodness with Peg now, but is a comma not a fault? No, it's not. Because why? Because then you go, then it says, so right here you're like, I'm in a quoted field and I have a quote. Is this the end? I don't know. Let me check. Let me see what the next character is called. A look ahead. It looks ahead and says, well, the next character is a quote. The next character is the next character is a double quote. So we'll just go with a double quote. I'll rewind and I'll go back. Still in a field, does the same thing here. It says, yeah, okay, I'm escaped. I have a comma. Normally commas are a field, but I don't care. Because why? Because I'm in a quoted field. In a quoted field. Keeps going through. But you can already tell from me describing the logic of how that has to be parsed that it's not the same as any of the other ones we did. You know, I mean, this is like super easy for the parser to do, right? A truly comma delimited field. That's why I choose to call them comma delimited fields or tab delimited or bar delimited as opposed to comma separated. Because as soon as you say comma separated, people get confused. Are you talking about CSV? No, I'm talking about a bunch of fields with commas in between. You're like, well, that's different than CSV. And now you know why. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because the purpose of the boost is to bring things up that are not common knowledge that you're not going to learn when you're learning about CSV. You know, you're going to go in there and you're going to make a mistake because you're going to have code that parses on commas. It's going to do all that crap that I just showed you. It's going to say, don't get mad. It's going to leave you hanging because it doesn't truly parse a CSV. To parse a CSV from a script requires at least 10, 20, 30 lines. You'd have to write a full state machine. You cannot parse a CSV line with the cut and a split. You can't do it. It's physically impossible. So you have got to write a state machine, which is fun, but that's not what you want to do usually. So you want to just put tabs or bars or something in between there. And that's why you see so frequently, you'll see some unusual character, sometimes two of these. Sometimes people will put, tab. People will use tab because it lines up nice and looks pretty. But I personally don't like tab delimited because I can't see the delimiter and that freaks me out. I would rather have stuff all be squished together and know what I'm dealing with than that. And you have to just make sure that that thing isn't in there. And even if a lot of people will pick up a bar and then as soon as you say you can have a bar inside of your field, as long as you put a backslash in front of it, now you have to have a state machine. So save yourself the hassle and design your data so that there's no exception to what's in the field and you'll get much cleaner splits and stuff. Because as soon as you do this, you can't just split on it. You have to search every character. If you see this, you have to say, well, does it have a thing in front of it? Okay, ignore it. That cannot be covered with cut. Okay, so it's fun, but don't do it. I mean, if you're going to write a parser, fine. Parsers are hilariously fun. 2 weeks into my job, and I love it. People I work with are really smart. However, they are way structured their code in the opposite of clean code book. Of course they do. As does my team. You don't have to be them though. And in the world of PR requests, I learned today, you can actually send PR requests against internal code. I'm so glad they use Enterprise GitHub internally because all of my workflows and configuration files and everything just convey perfectly across and I can just keep using those. So yeah, I opened like 8 issues on a shell script today. and then I rewrote the script and committed it to main, which you're never supposed to do. I said, I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. And he's like, that's fine. And that's why I'm going to do a PR request next time. Yeah, to be fair, he wanted me to leave this in production code. It's like, it's not that big a deal. I only run it every once in a while. He wanted me to leave that in the commit. I was like, he wouldn't accept it until I added it back. I was like, really? If you don't know, that's kind of an internal joke with other bash people, if you know what that does. But anyway, that causes your shell script to just spew all kinds of debugging output. Anyway, so I absolutely love this coworker. This is nothing to do with him as a person. I think he's phenomenal. He's one of the nicest, most amazing, smartest guys I've ever worked with. I just thought that was funny. And he's like, this is just a stupid shell script. It doesn't matter. Oh, yeah? What? Give it intel to hackers? Oh, yeah, it's fine. But, it is what it is. I'm sick and tired of people saying, no, this is just a shell script. It doesn't matter. I am so tired of hearing that. It takes literally 2 seconds to run it under shell check and actually make sure that it's a clean code and it works well. Why not? Why not just take the extra tiny little bit of time and make sure your code that you wrote that you think you're just going to throw away, which you never do, by the way. You always think that that little shell script that you're going to write is never going to live on. And then what? And then another thing comes up and you go, oh yeah, where's that shell code that I wrote over there? And it's like laying in some temp directory somewhere. And you're like, yeah, that would be useful right now. Moral of the story, put even that, if you needs to be a private repo, fine. Take just a little bit of extra time to put enough thought into your shell script to make it safe and to make it useful. And, put it in source control. Who cares if nobody ever sees it again? It might spawn somebody else's idea, particularly if you've got like a team repo where you've got private repos in there and the other people in the team can see it. They might come to that code and like copy and paste it out and want to go use it. A lot of people don't do it because they're afraid to expose their shell coding ability. And they just won't say that. I don't know if that's the case here. Probably not. But this is more permanent than programming than temporary hacks than a temporary solution. There you go. You guys both said the same thing, almost on cue, as if I planned it. So that hack that you think you want to just die and go away, you want to put out there. I honestly, I think a lot of the fear, particularly with shell scripting, is because nobody ever actually taught you to shell script. I mean, raise your hand if you had a class that taught you to shell script. I never did. Nobody teaches shell scripting. It's not taught. It's like it's assumed, and yet you do it every day. Every single time you use a command line, you are shell scripting, and yet nobody teaches it. You can get it through an entire CS degree, a PhD, and not have anybody once tell you how to code shell. Not once. And you get out of there without even knowing. I did. Yeah, I got it without, well, I wasn't a CS major, but we learned bash scripting in a class or two. Thank God. And I saw that MIT has a thing called the lost semester, which just drives me nuts. Why is this extra stuff? You use the terminal every day in your computer science courses. Why is this the first thing that you learn? Why do they wait until the end and stuff it at you as an extra alternative so you actually know how to use your computer? I don't get it. All right, I gotta calm down now. You're getting it from like, exactly. So maybe we can help stem the tide here. I think learning the terminal, learning shell, even POSIX shell, bash, whatever, but all of these things, I think that they're fundamental. You shouldn't be learning anything else until you learn these things. Most of that is basically Linux the daily driver a few years ago. Yeah, me too. I was employed as a shell script coder for IBM, and I had never learned shell. I never fully read the man page. I did. Now, to be fair, I learned Perl was my first real serious language. The language I put the most time in. It was really crazy too, because I kept learning Perl about all these special variables and stuff in Perl. And then I came back to shell like years later, decade later. And I was learning shell and I was like, oh, because Perl was trying to be like shell in so many ways, trying to maintain that knowledge going forward. And if I had learned shell first, it would have made so much more sense. But I didn't. The whole idea of parsing, the whole idea of map string, map filter reduce, map, for example, in Perl, there's a map. There's this idea of a map. A map is just a loop against a thing. And that confused the hell out of me when I first saw it. I was like, what is this? Actually, JavaScript programmers don't know this, but they have that in common with Perl programmers, is the whole map filter reduce kind of idea to get through data. And I don't know if now is the time to bring up map filter reduce. We should probably cover that. That I learned in college, C++ and Java. Well, I learned Pascal, so because I'm an old guy. My CS 101 taught us Pascal, and I'm really glad. But I dropped my computer science major after that class, like that. I was done. I'm so glad I did. Oh, we got some Fortran people even. That's awesome. Fortran is still a fantastic language, man. Yeah, I know. We're kind of dating ourselves here. Yeah. But Visual Basic is good. Java is usually the one most young people will have learned first these days. Anybody in high school as of probably 5 years ago, there's a good chance they're starting to learn Python, although Java is still the standard AP computer science language in America. That's what we learn over here, for better or worse. But yeah, nobody uses the terminal or anything. You're using Cut? We were using Cut. Yeah, I learned Cut today, Sir John D. Fox. I actually just learned how to use Cut today. You all saw it here. And actually, I changed my opinion on cut. You know what? For the record, it is now on permanent video record that when I receive new information about something that I may have hated on, I change my mind. And I will tell you that I've changed my mind, no matter how adamant I was about the other thing. Strong opinions, weakly held. This is a mantra. It started in Silicon Valley. It's kind of controversial. I still hang by it. I've written about it in my Zettelkasten. Strong opinions, weakly held. That means you get new information, you learn, and you change. You don't hold on to dogma. That's not scientific method. It's not good for the world. If you were wrong, say you were wrong and move forward. And I was wrong. Cut was really good. Just be careful because it's not greedy. So combine it with set or awk, which we just found out. I like Python. I do. There's a lot of I've been reviewing some Python code for a guy today. I tell you what, though, he had 6 levels of nested Python. Oh my God. I opened an issue on it. Seriously, do you know what 4 spaces of indentation, 6 levels of nesting, 4 spaces of indentation looks like in Python? With an exception handler? With an exception handler around 30 lines of code. It was the quintessential bad Python to me. The only way I would think it would have made it a bit worse is if they had put a bunch of comprehensions in there. And it's annoying. I know. Dude, he didn't need the white space, though. You know what he could have done instead? He had like 2 else statements down here that you couldn't even tell what they went with because you couldn't make any sense of it. And if he had used top-down, return logic, like we've talked about in the shell scripting day, he could have failed out of the function early on and kept everything left justified. He could have removed 3 different levels of nesting. 3 levels of nesting would have been gone immediately. You only have the 1 level of nesting because it's a function. You have another one because you had an exception handler, which automatically sticks everything over by 1. You had 1 legitimate if statement that had to wrap the whole thing. And then he had a bunch of other little ones in there, and he had else statements that were totally unnecessary. And so, it took everything in me from sending him a PR request with redoing all his Python code and showing him how you could probably do it right. It wasn't flawed logic. The logic was valid. It was just crap. And I told you, I love this person, but this is why I don't like Python. The reason I don't like Python is because people who learn Python don't learn some of the techniques. One of the reasons that it's so great to learn Go is because Go as idiomatic Go encourages you to keep everything left justified from the very first day. And people scream and holler about if error equals null. But I'm telling you, that is better than 7 levels of nesting, or God help you if you're writing JavaScript and you're still doing callback hell and you've got literally like 25 degrees of nesting. Nothing to do with language. It's a person, right? Right. I agree. But you know what, Alex, you're right. You got me on that. But here's the problem. The people that are learning Python are not learning how to shape code well. And you're absolutely right. It's put a bad taste in my mouth because I run into that code all the time in Python. And I would rather have, in fact, today I also read walls and walls of some of the most beautiful, eloquently written Perl code I have ever seen. I cannot wait to meet the person. The person who wrote all this Perl code, by the way, I probably shouldn't say, but they're now a VP-ish kind of person in our company. And I can't wait to meet them because it is absolutely gorgeous Perl. It's beautiful. It's easy to read. It's ancient. It's been written back in the 90s. And actually I'm going to be working in that tomorrow. I gotta alter some of the code in that to make it do some other things. So, but if you compare that to this, a little bit of, REST API Python that I saw, and there's just no comparison at all. Is it poetry? Yeah. If you can find me some, I would love to look at it, Alex. I like, as we've said over and over again, we're going to get started up with the coding stuff here pretty soon. We started with Shell already, but as we get into the coding stuff, one of the things that I'd like to cover with you is, the things that aren't covered by the books. Like, is the Accord Dev? Oh, nice. The things that aren't covered by the books, like what sort of logic should I use here? Should I use, short circuit logic? Should I use, that kind of thing? And the best way to learn that stuff, it truly is art. I'm not exaggerating. This isn't hyperbole. It truly is art when you run across some really good stuff. Let me give you an example of this. Let me show you some shell art. if I can really quick. But this is a good way to go out. If you want to, one of the best ways to learn coding practices is to read people who write really awesome code. And I'm not even saying that about myself. My code, I'm like, oh, some of my code is way better than other code. My Go code's pretty good. But you know it when you see it. It's art. It's totally art. And you're like, oh, this is like so well done. So inside of my files directory, if you read the Docker installer in shell, it's very well written. If you read anything from the Helm team, it's just crap. I'm sorry. I call it like I see it. But I'll tell you, but I hope I can find it again now. Where did I put it? Here, find name. It's in here somewhere. Nope. I gotta go up a bit. Where is it? Is it not there anymore? You might have the secret there. You might have it. That might be it. I don't know if that's true, but all right. So this code here, I mean, okay, he doesn't use test. I would do test here like this. I mean, I would do test. That's my preference. Okay. But other than that, I mean, it is really amazing code. It's really clean. It's got some math in it that I don't know if I would have used this kind of math, but I still want to study it. There's still some things in here that I want to study. He uses Command-V, which I complained about before, and then I learned that which is not POSIX compliant. I'm like eating my hat. You guys know that, right? I learned that this week. There's somebody else, shall not be named, who is a member of the Cloud Native board who did not know which was not POSIX. There are a lot of people who don't know that which is not POSIX. I was one. So yeah. And so again, there's a lot of reasons to read through here. You name -r is the cell is that one anyway. Old school echoes there. So I guess the moral of this little moment is to find somebody who writes kick-ass code and read it and study why they do that. What is that about? You know what I mean? This is interesting. Look at that. Oh, I haven't seen that idiom before. Remember that whole thing about, you know why he did this? He did this so that the setx only applies to this one specific thing. Brilliant. Brilliant. And remember, I just learned like this week that parentheses limit the scope of changes because it's a subshell. So it gets rid of your problems with global variables. Would test replace a single command? I think so. Yeah. Yeah, I think that would do it. Okay, so that's more of a stylistic thing, though. I get a sense that I think this is confusing. I don't like this kind of writing. I would rather write it like this. This is just me. I think this is much more readable, personally, than the brackets. That's my personal preference. That's the only significant difference I have with the author of this code. Everything else is just fantastic. It's just, and it is art. I don't care what you say. It is art. See, they're turning on errors. So when you do the +E, that says if any of these are not true, stop execution instead of keeping going, which shell does by default, and then he turns it back off. It's just a lot of cool stuff. By the way, check this out. Remember tabs versus spaces? Look at this. You see this right here? Tabs, POSIX shell, the official indentation style is tabs officially. So he's using the -EOF, which allows him to indent. But if you do that, they have to be tabs. So there's one case where you'd have to have tabs and spaces in your file at the same time. So that's one case for that. There's some good old TR. Oh, look at this. This is his uppercase. This line right here. If he was writing bash, you know that one, right? In bash, you can do that with one parameter expansion now. So, yeah. I mean, I wasn't planning on doing this, but this is kind of fun. There's some good old sed. Now that, if I'm writing this for a BusyBox container, I would have to use sed. This is what I would do. He's got two. He doesn't have to do this with two, though. This is stupid. That really annoys me, because you know what he could have done instead of that? This. I swear to God. That's all I have to do. Yeah, you either do that or that. You don't need to make 2 subshell calls. I found a bug. Now, maybe I'm wrong, so someone prove me wrong. But this is another thing about sed we haven't talked about at all. You can have multiple sed, and you don't have to pipe to 10 sed subshells. You can have multiple transitions happening to each line as you go through, and you just separate them with semicolons because they're just separate lines. Because it's a language. And so you can put them all in one line, and you don't have to do all that translation in 5 or 10 or 20 subshells like people do. So that was actually a bug. I would catch him on that one. Everything else is fine. I should probably put this back the way I got it. You know about that, right? Just check it out again. You know about this? Yeah. If you check something out again, you can just revert it back to what it was. For all these intricate details we're talking about now, I'm reading bash manuals very hard. No, there isn't. There is git restore. I know, same thing. So, there's the bash shell style guideline from Google, which some of it I like, some I don't. There's a lot of stuff about writing shell code, but there's nothing about finessing shell code. There's very few things that talk about ways to do it. And I've tried to make the goal of the boost to cover that stuff and to let you the more pedestrian, this is how you write the code up to you and, reading the man page, frankly. But honestly, the best way to learn that is just like an artist. It's going to be to read really great code. And one of the resources that I want to create as we go through this, either now or after the boost, is a sort of reference. Like Alex, you gave us the great list for Python code. I want to create a list of artists, of coding artists, where you can follow their work just like you would if you were an artist like my wife. And you can go look at all the stuff they do, and you can study from the masters by just looking at what they've made. And there's a lot of stuff. Writing your own scripts, yeah. There's going to be a lot of stuff there that you're going to learn just by saying. Honestly, the most amazing tips that I've got have been from reading other people's code that was there, as also reading other people's horrible code and going, oh my God, why are they doing it that way? And there's some of those techniques and stuff are very hard to capture in a sort of formal way. I'm doing the best I can here with a boost, but as I've said before, I think the best way is to get you a list of all the really great Go coders out there. Pike's, any of Pike's stuff, like the compiler in Go is fantastic. I'm actually looking for resources of really great C coders out there. Modern C developers. I don't want to do K&R C book, which I know is a standard. We're getting to that. But creating that list of people that we kind of opinionatedly think are masters of writing the code, and then learning their techniques, because those techniques are not covered. The best thing I can say about the most recent publication for Go, Learning Go, I forget his name, is that his book is about that. It assumes a sort of base level of programming, but it actually goes into several of the tips and tricks and best practices, and you want to do this and not that, and here's why, even though you can do it this many different ways, so that you can find that one best way to do it depending on the situation. But as you saw, a lot of that stylistic, like I absolutely detest all these brackets here. I think these should be tests every time. It just makes it harder for me to read and parse and everything. So that's just me. And this drives me nuts because it's completely unnecessary. Completely unnecessary. 2 seds is unnecessary. You can do it in 1. That's all I have for tonight. I went over kind of a bit because we had to chop the video earlier. So once again, thanks so much for joining me. And if you find the resources, let us know. We are a very friendly community to each other, unless you ask lazy questions, in which case we'll bite your head off and then forgive you and tell you to go answer your own question. I've written about that before, but otherwise, if you have questions and you want to, we haven't covered something, please let me know. We'll cover that. Enough said. Oh my God. Have you been saving that one all night? You're going to use that again, aren't you? You got to use enough said again. When we do said, I don't know when we're going to do said though. We already did said. You know what? You know why I didn't cover said? Because it's covered already. The only thing about said that I have to tell you is that you don't need to have 2 pipes. You can do it in 1 command. That's it. That's the only perhaps unknown thing that you won't cover through, billions of lines of code in Stack Exchange or wherever you're going to go read it. So yeah, just learn sed and you'll get and BRE, dark humor. Okay, I'm gonna be putting the chill up and the fishies back on. So it's been fun, people, and God knows I love that you let me do these things. I learned a lot tonight, actually. Thank you for all the stuff you've brought to me, and we'll forgive the dad jokes and dark humor and all that good stuff. That's all I have to say about that. So see ya. Do 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 do.